Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel, Books with Karen, and I'm Karen. Today's video is my May TBR, so the books that I want to read during May, and I really enjoyed having a TBR in April because it just made it so much easier to pick the book I was reading next. I just had a selection to pick from rather than having to look at my bookshelves and thinking, what am I going to read next? I had actually already picked them. So I'm quite happy that I'm doing this again this month. So last month, I think I chose 9 books to read and I managed to read 7 of them. The 2 that I didn't read were The Warm Hands of Ghosts and the other one was Christmas at the Cat Cafe. Now I'm going to put The Warm Hands of Ghosts on my reserve list for this month, just in case I get a chance to read an extra one, because the books I've chosen this month don't seem to be that thick, so I may get a chance to read an extra one, so I'm going to leave that on. And Christmas at the Cat Cafe, I actually put off reading that one from the selection that I picked in April, so I'll put that back on my shelf and maybe it might get picked later in the year, we'll see. So the way I picked 2 of my books last year was I had chosen 12 books that I wanted to read this year, so that was 1 a month. So the idea was to choose one of those as me, one of the books to put on my TBR. And the way I did it was I typed out all of the names of the 12 books and put them on little pieces of paper and scrunched them up and then picked one out at random to read. So I've done that again this month. I took the box and I chose one of the pieces of paper, and the book that I chose was The Skeleton Key. This is by Erin, Kiley, and it says, "One book, a lifetime of obsession." I'm just going to read you what it says on the blurb on the back. I'm just going to put my specs on for this. One book. 50 years ago, Frank Churcher wrote the book that would make his family's fortune and ruin their lives. The Golden Bones was written as a fairy tale and treasure map, but it quickly turned into a dangerous obsession for a cult of readers desperate to find the final piece of the puzzle. The Churchers were torn apart by the fame it brought them, and after a terrifying attack, Frank's daughter Nell became a recluse. With the family reunited to mark the anniversary of publication, Frank has one last surprise in store. It's finally time to reveal the location of the missing treasure, but some secrets are meant to stay buried. So I think that sounds like a really interesting thriller. It has got 491 pages in it, so maybe a little bit thicker than normal. And on Goodreads, this has got 3 3/4 stars. Now, I don't always take notice of the star ratings that books get. I like to make my own mind up. But it is a good guideline for when I come to give my own rating on what I thought against the average of everybody else. So the first book, The Skeleton Key by Erin, Kiley. And the other way that I chose, I'm going to keep taking my glasses off because I'm getting a glare in the lens. The second book that I chose, I again used the method that I used in April. I've got a bookshelf where I've got 20 books that I maybe had on my shelf for quite a while and that I wanted to get around to reading, but they weren't on the 12 that I picked that I definitely wanted to read this year. So I've got them on the bookshelf and I've got them numbered. Well, I've got papers numbered 1 to 20, and again I picked one of the numbers out of the box, counted along the shelf, and then chose that book off the shelf to read. And the one that I picked out this month is The Borrow a Bookshop Holiday by Kiley Dunbar. Now, this probably isn't my normal kind of book to read, and that's probably why it's still on my bookshelf. It says, surrounded by books, can Jude find her own happy ending? It's a kind of romance thing. It's probably the sort of book that I would read on a summer holiday. So actually I can see the back of the book because the writing is quite large on there. So I'll just read you what it says. Jude Crawley has a broken heart. After leaving her cheating boyfriend, she decides to go solo on their non-refundable holiday, running a tiny bookshop in the Devon Harbour village of Clove Law. Now, straight away, I think the reason I bought this book was because I loved the idea of taking a holiday where you run a bookshop. That sounds really fun to me. There's just one problem. 6 foot tall, brooding, gorgeous Elliot has also reserved the bookshop holiday for 2 weeks. As Jude and Elliot put their differences aside to run the bookshop, Jude finds herself falling for more than just words until she discovers what Elliot is running from and why he's hiding out in Clove Law. Could this be Jude's romantic ending, or will there be a final twist in this tale? It does sound like the run-of-the-mill kind of romance, boy meets girl, boy and girl don't get on, and boy and girl get together at the end. So yeah, I'm not expecting much from it, but I did buy it in the first place. So this has actually got a 4 stars on Goodreads, a 4-star rating. It's only 295 pages, so it may be good. We shall see. I will reserve judgment until I've read it. The Borrow a Bookshop Holiday by Kiley Dunbar. So this next book I picked at random off my shelf is a book that I borrowed off my son. And this is the second one in a series called 6 Stories. I've read the first one, but it was about 3 years ago. And each of the 6 stories, each story is a book in itself. The 6 stories are investigations by a podcaster into old murders. The first one, if I recall rightly, I really enjoyed it. Now, I can't actually remember what the story was about, but it was about a murder that had been, or somebody had gone missing 20 years before, and this podcaster investigated and eventually got to the bottom of the murder, if I remember rightly. So the second one, Hydra, I'll put my specs on to read the back of this one. So this says, one cold November night in 2014 in a small town in the northwest of England, 21-year-old Orla MacLeod bludgeoned her mother, stepfather and younger sister to death with a hammer in an unprovoked attack known as the MacLeod Massacre. Sounds lovely. Now incarcerated at a medium security mental health institution, Orla will speak to no one but Scott King, an investigative journalist whose 6 Stories podcasts have become an internet sensation. King finds himself immersed in an increasingly complex case, interviewing 5 key witnesses and Orla herself as he questions whether Orla's responsibility for the massacre was as diminished as her legal team made out. As he unpicks the stories, he finds himself thrust into a world of deadly forbidden games, online trolls and the mysterious black-eyed kids whose presence seems to extend far beyond the delusions of a murderess. Dark, chilling and gripping, Hydra is both a classic murder mystery and an up-to-the-minute, startling thriller that shines light in places you may never ever want to see again. It sounds really interesting, and like I say, I do recall enjoying the first one. And Matt Wesolowski is actually from Newcastle upon Tyne, which is very close to where I live. So it is interesting to read a book by somebody from the same area as me. So yeah, this on Goodreads has 4 stars and it has 258 pages. So I'm looking forward to reading that. The next book is a book that has been on my bookshelf for quite a while, and a lot of you have probably read this, and this is Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Maud Montgomery. Now, I've never read Anne of Green Gables. I did watch the series Anne of Green Gables, or Anne of Avonlea, I think it was called, back in the probably early 70s, mid 70s maybe. And I remember really enjoying the series. So I thought I would read the book. So this book is about an elderly brother and sister, Marilla and Matthew Cuthbert of Green Gables, ask an orphanage to send them a young boy who will be able to help on their farm. Imagine their surprise when an 11-year-old girl with bright red hair arrives instead. Anne quickly finds a place in their affections, entertaining them with her constant irrepressible chatter and exasperating them with her mistakes, her hot temper and her vivid imagination. Find out what happens when she accidentally dyes her hair green and bakes cakes with liniment didn't put my specs on, did I? Instead of vanilla essence, amongst many other mishaps. Orphaned Anne Shirley is one of the funniest, most lovable characters in literature with a uniquely quirky worldview. I thought it was definitely time I read that. So yeah, I picked that off my shelf. Goodreads gives this 4 stars, which I'm not really surprised about. It is a classic, 285 pages. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading it. I'm looking forward to reading each of these. Well, I wouldn't have them, would I, if I wasn't looking forward to reading them. So the next book is a non-fiction book, actually, and this is Walk Yourself Happy by Julia Bradbury. Find your path to health and healing in nature. Now, the reason I came across this book was me and my husband went to stay in a hotel in Scarborough. I think it was the year before last. It might have been early last year, but there was a deal on where you got 2 nights plus free breakfast plus a £30 gift voucher for food in the bar, and you got a free book. So that's where this book came from. It says, inspires young and old, the dedicated and amateur, to embrace the life-affirming joy of walking. Now, I have already started this book. I'm up to chapter 4. And so far, it is not what I was expecting it to be. I have enjoyed the first chapter, the first couple of chapters, which are all about the outdoors and trees and how nature is good for your health and well-being. But then the next chapter went on to talk a lot about nutrition, and that's I'm up to the chapter that is about to talk about sleep. And I was expecting the whole book to be about walking and things to do with walking. So yeah, I will reserve judgment on it until I've finished it. But on Goodreads, this has 4 stars again. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I thought it would be good to put some non-fiction books in the mix as well. The other book that I have chosen to read this month is, well, no, I'm going to listen to it. It is an audio book, and I've had it on my Audible list for probably about a year, and it is called Spread the Joy by Gabby Roslin. And it says, make every day brighter. Say yes to joy with this irresistibly upbeat guide designed to boost your mental health and well-being. Gabby shows us how to live a happier, more fulfilled life, one tiny task at a time. Whether at home, at work, or on your commute, be inspired to find and create pockets of joy in your day. That just sounds really good to me. I'm all about finding joy in life. I did read The Happiness Project by Gretchen Rubin a couple of years ago and absolutely loved that book. So I'm hoping Gabby's book is similar, probably not the same, but very similar. I'm hoping, and I'm sure I will enjoy that as well. And Gabby herself is narrating the book. So I'm looking forward to listening to a book instead. Hopefully I might actually do that while I'm walking. So if I go for a walk every day and then I can listen to a chapter of the audiobook, I'm not going to fall asleep listening to it, and I'm more likely to concentrate. So it's Spread the Joy by Gabby Roslin. Now, the next book I've got on my TBR is a book that is on our book club list for May, and that is Mrs. Winterbottom Takes a Gap Year. If you don't know about our book club, it is called the Once Upon a Book Club, and we choose a book every month to read, and then at the end of the month I do a live YouTube video where a couple of people come on and chat live on camera with me. If anybody's out there wants to do that, feel free to ask and I can send you the link. If you don't want to be on camera with me, then you can just take part in the chat and give me your thoughts and feelings on what you thought of the book. And we also have a Facebook group that goes with the book club. It's all free to join. I will leave the link to the Facebook group in the description box below. So like I said, in May we are reading Mrs. Winterbottom Takes a Gap Year, and I'm going to be reading this on Kindle, so I don't actually have the book to hand. Is Mrs. Winterbottom Takes a Gap Year by Joanna Nell. And I think this is a kind of romance book as well. And it says, it's never too late for the adventure of a lifetime. A hilarious and laugh out loud read about second chances. So that sounds good. Heather Winterbottom has worked side by side with her husband as GPs in their idyllic rural practice for over 40 years. But as the time comes to hang up their stethoscopes, the Winterbottoms discover that they have rather different visions of retirement. Heather dreams of exploring the Greek islands, of escaping the shackles of her routine life and embracing an exciting new adventure. Alan dreams of growing his own vegetables. Sounds a bit like me and my husband, I think. When things come to a head at a family lunch, Heather announces that she has decided to take a year off from her old life, from her marriage, from Alan. Alone in beautiful Greece, Heather embarks on her very own odyssey, complete with peak experiences, pitfalls and temptations. But what if coming home is the biggest adventure yet? So that sounds like a lot of fun. And I'm only joking when I say it sounds like my husband, because it doesn't. But that is interesting, if you think about retirement. Have you and your husband, you and your partner got different ideas of what retirement looks like? It's not something you really talk about, I suppose. But yeah, that sounds like a fun book. And like I say, that is the one that was chosen for the book club in May. And on Goodreads, that book has 3 3/4 stars on average. And like I said, I'm reading that on Kindle. So that should be fun. And the last book for this month is a book I got out of the library. And this is Ghosted by Jenn Ashworth. This was a book that had been on our poll for the book club a couple of months ago. We usually choose 4 books, put them to a vote, and then the one that gets the most votes, that's the one we read. This one didn't get the most votes of the month, obviously, but I did like the sound of this book. So I'll just read you what it says. It does say it is a love story, and it says, one ordinary morning, Laurie's husband, Mark, disappears, leaving behind his phone and wallet. For weeks, she tells no one, strange in itself, carrying on her cleaning job at the nearby university, visiting her tricky dementia-suffering father, and holing up in her high-rise flat with a bottle of wine or 2 to hand. When she finally reports Mark as missing, the police are suspicious. Why did she take so long? Wasn't she worried? Laurie's account of subsequent events raises even more questions. What makes her mistrust her father's carer? Why is she still fascinated by the long-ago murder of a local girl? Does she really sense a strange presence in the flat? It is only when she looks back on the ensuing wreckage, the friendships broken, the wild accusations, the one-night stand, that she begins to understand what lay behind it and see how she might repair the damage if it's not too late. It says it's laced with dark humour, and it is an intriguing novel that draws a memorable portrait of a stubborn young woman as angry with herself as she is with everyone close to her. I just thought that sounded really interesting when we put it on the list in the first place. So I was pleased when I found this in the library. I thought I would get that out to read. So yeah, that should be fun. This has 3.5 stars on Goodreads, so maybe not as good as some of the other ones that I've got on my list this month. It is a thriller, and it is 288 pages long. So like I said, none of these books are exceptionally long, so I may get The Warm Hands of Ghosts read as well this month. So those are the books that are going to be on my TBR for May. I hope you found that interesting. Please let me know in the comments below, what book are you about to read next? Do you have a TBR list? Let me know in the comments below. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.